And welcome to another episode of PixlFeed Radio, and I'm here with my friend Harry Abraham. Harry, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. For those of you that don't know, Harry is the founder of a business called BizWings, and what they specialize in is pretty much saving you time when it comes to your business without automation. So I'm pretty excited about this episode today, since I'm all about automation and making things easier. Setting up processes in place to concentrate on the things that matter and not like the things that are time consuming, like connecting sheets and stuff like that. Harry, you have an interesting background, man. So you're an attorney and you're a former pro soccer player. So let's get into all that, man. I like to get everybody's background. So when you were a kid, did you always have like a side hustle? Were you doing like little businesses here and there growing up? How did it all start?
Oh man. Well, the entrepreneurial side, I didn't have side hustles until maybe college, but I always knew I wanted to run my own business. I knew I wanted to operate and kind of structure things from the top down. And I always was really careful about, okay, I want to understand how things work and how businesses work so that I can run them from the top down, knowing them, well. So actually in college, it's funny. I didn't know what I wanted to do exactly, but I knew that I wanted to own my business. I knew that I wanted to contribute back to society. And I, after college, started a small business and then started negotiating contracts and stuff, and thought I was going to get my MBA and realized, wait, a law degree would be more valuable. So that's kind of where I went down that track. Everything kind of ties back in, but the entrepreneurial side always pulled me back. So I did practice law for a while. I actually helped a lot of entrepreneurs and small businesses and startups. And so that's kind of what I focused on early on, is like a startup lawyer. And then I litigated. So I helped big businesses fight, in court. And at the end of the day, I realized I've helped all these businesses and I know how to structure them foundationally. But the key is not just the foundation legally, but once you cross that threshold, is the foundation for sales, the foundation for marketing, and to actually be able to advertise and throw things into your business, but capture those leads and turn those into sales. And that's kind of what BizWings does. So we do a lot, right? So we talk about marketing automation and business automation. It all kind of can mean many things, but the easiest way to look at it, and the most critical way that we help small businesses, is actually sales automation. So we do sales process automation, and it's kind of like broken down into a few steps, right? So first of all, we want to map the business processes so we understand what your sales process is. And then we can optimize that process and find holes and ways to maybe plug those holes in. And then we can automate it and scale, so you're not scaling your problems. I realized I went kind of full circle there, but
that's okay.
There's a lot in my past and my history, and it all ties into just wanting to do things the right way and the best way. And that's what we've kind of plugged in with our system.
So okay, so let's rewind back a little bit. So software's no joke. You got to know what you're doing. Apps, you got to know what you're doing, or you got to have a team that knows what they're doing. So where did the idea come from? I know you were helping startups, right? So did you see different pieces of software or apps that you say, I can make that better, or I can do that better, or you saw something completely different, or you were introduced to the world and you had like the aha moment? I'm like, oh my God, I can create a piece of software that does this. How did the idea come about? How did it all start?
A lot of aha moments on my end, and then also with my business partner, Chris, who is a software coder and developer. So on his end, he's been doing the same thing from a different perspective. So on my end, being, I didn't mention this, I was an attorney and I played pro soccer at the same time. There was an overlap. So I was kind of living two lives, and I had to.
So who were you playing for?
I was playing with the San Diego Sockers.
Okay, that's cool.
And I played with the U.S. national team for beach soccer for 8 years as well. So
that's awesome.
So I was living kind of two lives, and I had to figure out what's the best way to manage these, right? So efficiency has always been in my blood.
How did you even have the time? I'm just thinking about that, like between training and playing and working.
Discipline and efficiency. That's really it. To be effective in what you do, you got to use your time wisely. And you got to make sure that you structure yourself so that you can succeed. Otherwise, you're going to fail in both. So that was kind of it. I had to put those two hats on. But that's kind of my MO. That's how I've been built right into this. Oh, I don't have a lot of time. I have to figure out how to maximize it when I have it. And that's what we do with BizWings. So that's from my side. I did that. And then I did that as an attorney, and I tried to use software wherever possible, but let's not even get into that industry because I feel very
Oh, I'm
biased.
married to one. So trust
Yeah.
me, I know. I know.
So, lawyering and software don't always mix well.
No, they don't.
Yeah. So, but then I went in-house. I was in-house, then I went into a firm, and I went back in-house, but I became COO of an advertising agency. And in this position, I finally saw, okay, this is cool because I'm excited about marketing and advertising, and I'm very creative. But I realized that a lot of these businesses that want to scale, a lot of them want to plug in ads and go on Facebook and spend money and get these leads and hopefully get customers. But if you don't have your sales process and your system ready to capture those, you're going to lose them. So you're going to waste your money. So this is what we've created, which we believe is foundational for most small businesses. If you want to go online, or if you are online but you're not closing deals, this is for you. This is the way we're able to map your sales process, put it into stages, identify what we can automate. And then once we do automate, you save so much time, you close more deals, and your business grows as a result. So it's kind of a full circle in terms of my history and what we do. So
yeah, I mean, like back in, and I'm talking about back in this years ago, like I offered lead generation for a short time there because it was so easy to get leads on Facebook. Right. And the biggest issue that we have, and the reason why I stopped doing it and just focused just on e-com like I always have, is because most businesses didn't have a sales process in place. So the lead will come in and then they will blame the lead. And I'm just like, I talked about this before in here. It's like, oh, the leads suck. I'm like, no, they don't, because I have the same guy from the same ad account with the same landing page, literally closing 50% of them, and you're not closing any of them. So it's not the leads, it's you. You don't have a process in place. So the leads will come in and they will sit there. Nobody will follow up with them. And then at one point we started building the systems ourselves for the clients. And honestly, I just got sick of it. I got sick of dealing with it because I come from a sales background my whole life. So right. Those excuses are not going to fly with me. And when I have all the systems in place and you're still giving me excuses, I was like, you know what, let's just get rid of the lead gen. Let's just stick to what I know, 100% in and out, black and white, e-commerce, where either you get sales or you don't. There's no excuses in between, right? Yeah. And that's why I stopped it. But I'm glad you're doing this because you're making it easier for people to follow up. So now when you guys do it, do you guys do a custom system for each business? Or is it just you have different setups that people can choose from? How does that work?
No, we do. So in terms of what I describe as our sales automation kit, that would be something that plugs into most businesses, and we can tailor it slightly, and it works. Then we can also get into business automation, which goes into your operations, maybe actual client interaction and how you actually work your customers. That's a whole different thing, and that's completely custom. But for what works and what's really critical for most businesses is sales. And you just nailed it. I was in sales for a while as well, and I was good at sales. And I really think it's caring about your customer, listening to what they want, and making sure you provide them and show them all the value that you have so that they convert into a customer. And it's the same thing in the digital world, right? You want to show them value immediately. You want to respond immediately. You want to qualify them into being a customer, and then you want to convert them into a sale. And the way that you mentioned it as well, building out a customer journey is so critical. But most, let's say, brick and mortar business owners that existed pre-internet, right, and still are doing well today, they hit some sort of a wall and they can't break through this ceiling actually. Right. And if you're able to automate, that allows you to break through, because this is going to save you the time and allow you to focus more on what you do best, which is handling your customers, dealing with your current clients. But your sales process, it needs to be fast, it needs to be agile, it needs to qualify your customers, and it needs to show the value of your business. And just putting up a website or a landing page is not going to do it, right? There's follow up, and there's a lot that goes in there. So, there's two things you benefit from. The business owner benefits because he's going to save time and his business is going to grow, all around. But the customer is also going to benefit. The customer journey is going to improve. They're going to experience trust immediately out the gates with first interaction with your company. Wow, instant response, company presentation. Here's all the services that are relevant based on my interactions with them. Here's the follow-up conversation. There's already been 2 or 3 conversations before that person is scheduled on a call or scheduled on for a proposal, and that business owner didn't have to do all of that work. that really makes a big difference. You
Yeah.
know, talk about, funneling leads for companies. If you got 50 leads tomorrow and you don't have an automated system, are you going to respond quickly and meaningfully to all 50 leads?
No, absolutely not.
And your close rate's going to go down. So what's the point of trying to scale without a foundation to support the scale? So that's what I did as an attorney, early on. And now in this role, it's much more fun. I like this because it helps businesses grow. I see the impact in a positive way, and it's pretty cool. So
can you give me an example of like how the sales process is automated
Sure.
in terms of like the follow-ups and CRM and all that good stuff?
Yeah. So depending on your business, you may have a CRM, you may not have a CRM.
Well, yeah. First of all, before we get into that, what type of business does this work for? Like, is it a small business, mid-size, big, corporate? What is, so people have an idea?
Small to mid-sized businesses. This
Okay.
is what it's for. You want to, this is a really simple process. We make it really easy to manage. And we can always build from there. But basically, there's kind of like a simple recipe that we believe benefits most businesses, right? Your CRM is it's gonna plug into your phone and your email and your texts and every call. Everything's going to be stored automatically into the CRM. So that's going to move through the process as well. The CRM is going to be built very simply, and we're going to only automate the parts that are key and definitely repetitive in your business. The easiest way to look at it is initial contact through whatever avenue, whether it be your website or a phone call or an email. And then on the back end, once you're done with the customer, you want to get that review from a customer. And so we also do, automated review capture, where we're following up in a meaningful way, making sure you get reviews, making sure they're positive. And if they're not positive, that we're addressing them before, so we can actually improve your business on the back end too.
So let me give you an example of how I used to automate the whole lead nurturing, from capturing the lead to, nurturing all the way to the call.
Sure.
So let me see if I remember top of my head. So the lead will come in. We will build everything to ClickFunnels, because at the time ClickFunnels, it was the best, quote unquote. And I say the best because I love ClickFunnels, but nowadays there's so much more faster, better software for landing pages. But I still love ClickFunnels because it's easy. You know what I mean? I've been using it for so long. So lead will come in. Basically, it was the bait. Bait will come in to get access to his content. Give me your email address, phone number, whatever name. And then it will open up the VSL, the video sales letter, which was usually about 20 minutes long. Then the button at the bottom, to opt in or whatever. Then we'll click in, and then we will pre-qualify them with a few questions, based on income, budget, whatever, goals, just so we can get rid of the tire kickers right away. And at the same time, I was, creating custom audiences of each step from the funnel. Then after they got through that, then we'll take them to an Acuity calendar. And then with Acuity calendar, they will book the call. Right after that happened, the email sequence will kick in with active campaign. Then text messaging sequence in between the emails will go off with click send. And then it was nurture all the way till the day of the appointment. Lead will go automatically through Zapier, through a Google Sheet. So it was a pain in the ass to set up. Know that I'm talking about it. Through a Google Sheet, through Zapier. And then, and then somebody will go in there, like the salespeople will go in there and they can put their feedback about the call. And then at one point we added, I want to say it was HubSpot for the CRM. I can't remember. It's been so long, but yeah, we will have to set up everything manually, step by step. And, and that's me knowing all this stuff through other friends. So we will just talk to each other, and it was basically like Frankenstein, everything together. So, now you grabbed all of that and just put it into one thing that's automatic, right?
Correct. There's so many tools out there.
Because guys, if you're watching and listening, that's how you would do it if you were on your own. You will have to Frankenstein all this stuff in, which 99% of you listening to this, you don't even know how to do that. So that took forever to figure out. So so you offer that in one package, right? Together. Yeah, man, it's Frankenstein. Put it all together.
That's great. I couldn't agree more, and I wish that our co-founder Chris was on this call, because he could go on a tangent with you about all the tools out there. I mean, I've tried a lot of them, but he's tried everything under the sun, and he can code from scratch, so he knows, hey, what works, what doesn't. But the point is, we've gone through, and if you don't have a CRM, we'll recommend the right one for you. And if you don't have If you don't have a website, we'll create a landing page for you. We can subdomain it into your website if you have one, something with a good CTA, something that's actually going to convert, not, an old catalog, which is what websites used to be. We can optimize the entire process, but we do it for you, right? You don't have to Frankenstein anything. You don't have to learn anything. There's no R&D on your end. It's just done for you. So that's the benefit. And we've seen this work for a lot of small businesses. If you're a service-based business, that means you're going to have to close sales in some way. This is going to help you. If your sales process is more than just a click like an e-com page, then it's going to benefit you. It's one of those things where it's the R&D, the time savings. It's the tools that integrate seamlessly together, built for you and tailored for your business. So it just works out the gate. It's designed to be simple, not something that, if you're a brick and mortar company that doesn't have a digital presence, or you're not monetizing your digital presence, this is easy to onboard onto, easy to learn, and easy to use, which is kind of the most effective thing when it comes to software.
Yeah. So when you're dealing with these businesses, or when you guys were starting out, when you were doing your research, walk me through that process when you guys started, because that's what's like super interesting for me. When you guys were doing your research, what was the biggest mistakes that you saw that stood out to you guys right away with all these small businesses?
The biggest mistake or the biggest problem that they're having?
The problems, the biggest mistakes that we're making, or the biggest problems that we're having. I'm just curious to see like what you guys saw right away.
I think one of the most consistent ones is that people don't understand or haven't even mapped out their own sales process. Mm-hmm. So they're just bootstrapping from day one, and they're just going through it, and all of a sudden they have business and they're making money, and they're just kind of stuck somewhere. But without mapping and actually organizing your sales process and then visualizing that into a CRM meaningfully, mm-hmm. you're going to get stuck, right? You're going to be in your head a lot. You're not going to be able to kind of look down and see a top overview of your business and understand where everything is. You're always going to rely on memory, rely on to-do lists, and all these things that just kind of get jumbled up. It was pretty consistent where, you can go from 5 leads to 10, or 5 to 10 customers a month, right? And people can handle it, but they max out. After that, you need a system. If you do not have a system, you're not going to be able to field that many leads to nurture that many potential customers into sales. It's pretty consistent.
So one thing that I noticed with like most sales processes that they're broken is that the leads will come in, and the thing that amazed me the most, it was like every sales guy, and this is every small business that I dealt with, they didn't have like a script that they will follow. And what I mean by script, like if you're in sales and you really know how to do sales, you write a script and you memorize that script, because that script is what's going to take charge of the call or the whole process. Like, how do you guys think, like, car people, salespeople close so many deals? Because they have a process. Like if you bought cars in the past, it's always the same thing. It's a pain in the ass. I hate it more than anyone, even though that, I've never sold cars or anything like that, but I hated the process. But I mean, it works. They keep doing it that way because it works, So when I see these small businesses, it's like they have a team and they just let their salespeople do whatever. It's like, no, man. Like they got to ask the right questions. They got to follow the right process, and you got to try, it's like a funnel. You got to test A and B, which one works best. And then that way you can predict what your closing rate is going to be at some point. Is it 25%? Is it 35%? Once you know that, then you can do the math. Okay, if I get 100 leads, I'm going to close 35% of them. That's X amount of revenue for my business. And then that's how you avoid that roller coaster of not having a prediction of how much money you're going to make that month, especially when you're scaling with something like, your software.
Sure. Absolutely. That's an issue. But you mentioned earlier, you said a broken sales process, and maybe scripts are in there. Maybe you have a sales team, but maybe you don't even have that. Maybe you're just 1 to 5 people and you all kind of do it all. And you all know what to say, but it's unorganized.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Everybody is. The organization of your sales funnel, from mapping to making sure that each potential lead is organized in the process. That's critical. That's so critical. And
the way that I used to train,
the
way that I used to train my sales guys, I will literally put the script together and I will say, you will read that script. That script's going to be in front of you for at least 100 calls. At least 100 calls. And it got to a point, like at first they hated it. But once like Because here's the deal. The whole point of a script is like, you don't have to memorize it word by word, but you just got to get the concept of it and make it your own.
Correct.
And once you do it so many times and it's like literally ingrained in your head, it's just natural. You know, I know mine top of my head. Like, I don't even have to look at a script. I just know them. You know what I mean? And it's not because I know them word by word. I know the structure of what I have to follow. And then depending on the sales pitch, I already have what I call my objection blockers, which is my comeback to every objection that's going to come up, because I've heard the same objection a million times over. Or,
right.
you know, it's like back to the car deal. Don't you think these car sales guys, they've heard the same excuses a million times. So they have like 3 different comebacks for each one of them. And that's how they're able to keep the revenue going, the business going.
Absolutely.
And most people don't even...
It's knowing your business and knowing your product. And as a business owner, if you're one person, you know it really well. You know exactly what to say. The moment you start building out your team, of course, you would need to start building out scripts, or like some businesses do. They have, you know, here's a company overview that you need to study. It's part of your onboarding process as an employee. It's learning the business, learning the company, so that when you get on a sales call, you know it back to front. It doesn't have to be a pitch in that sense, but it all ties to the same thing. It's understanding the culture, understanding the offering, and being able to relay that value to the customer.
So I'm assuming when you guys are implementing everything, you're also getting rid of a lot of repetitive tasks in that process. So what can you give me an example of that? You know, what repetitive tasks you guys are getting rid of to make, you know, life easier for the business owner and their team?
Yeah, I mean, so in your sales process, you may develop, you may have to rely on proposals. Maybe there's a period where you send a proposal, you have to follow up with the customer, right? So if you're following up, you want to either have an automatic follow-up, or you want a task reminder for yourself to follow up, or you want to remind your team to follow up, which would automatically go out based on time delays and things like that, depending on, again, your sales process. Is this something where you want to follow up within an hour, within 24 hours, or in a week? It all depends on the type of business. But then within the sales process, within your actual business process, if you're automating things with your customers, that's automating feedback, automating questions that need to be answered, automating follow-ups, automating things that you have to do and you have to manage and think about. But if you map it out up front, then you know when it has to happen. So whether you trigger it to send automatically, or whether you just set yourself a reminder, it's all part of the process. And it's really impressive. Well, actually, it's surprising how many businesses don't have that, right? It's
right.
Again, the most common thing that we see. You haven't mapped out your process. You know it in your head, but there's nowhere to like visually see, hey, this is what happens next. So everybody's a little stressed about what's next and what's going on, and you can't see the top overview. You don't know how many leads you have coming in. You don't know the value of those potential leads. You don't know how many proposals you have out. You don't know how the total value of those proposals. What's your close rate at that level? Can you expect that? It's like forecasting your revenue, forecasting your business, understanding your business better. It all ties into this.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, people who are starting out and they're starting their business and you know, they're not ready for a company like yours to take over and help them because they're just not quite there yet. What do you recommend this do easier for everybody involved?
There's so many things. You know, you want me to give you a breakdown of a roadmap?
Just a few a roadmap. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you actually don't need anything to talk to us. We've actually helped companies launch from branding to web design to virtual assistant outsourcing, you name it. So in terms of early modeling, building out products, building out pricing models. I mean, I have a background in that, my business partner as well. So we can help any business at any stage, but you should really understand your product. You should understand your offering, and then you should understand how your sales process works, right? If you were going through a trade school, let's say you're a contractor and you're graduating, you do some HVAC work or something like that, right? You're going to have that trade, but you don't know how to run the business. You need to understand how your trade applies in terms of pricing, what you do, map that out, how you're going to plug that in, how you're going to offer it and show it to customers. And then, okay, let's say somebody called you, say, hey, I need some work for something. Well, What's that next stage? What are you going to offer them? What are the questions that you have for them? How are you going to qualify whether or not your offering applies to them? These are things that you should think about as before you start a business, and you're going to learn very fast as you launch a business and go through it. But if you haven't started, think about it. If you have started, you need to document these things. You need to map them out. You need to start thinking about how they work in sort of a systematic way, because that's the way that we're going to work with you. And we're going to find ways to either improve or automate that process and then plug it into a digital system that's basically easy to visualize and easy to manage.
That's awesome. Listen, Harry, thank you so much for coming on, man. That went by super fast. For those of you that are interested in automating the processes for your business, go to getbizwings.com. Harry, where can everybody else find you? LinkedIn.
We can actually, time did fly. I just looked at the time. That's great. Yeah. So for the podcast listeners, we actually have a new special in terms of the sales automation package. And if you go to getbizwings.com/podcast, we've put together the business automation starter kit for most small businesses. And we have a discount on there right now for podcast listeners. So this is a sales pipeline automated package that similar to what we just described. It's going to help most small businesses. You're going to instantly greet your online visitors, give them a company presentation to gain trust. You'll be able to visualize and manage your sales process in one simple interface, like I mentioned. Your calls, texts, and emails all organized in one place based on the customer communications, automatic task reminders so nothing falls through the cracks, and that thing I mentioned where we get automatic positive reviews from your happy customers, which is a huge lift to your business, because more authority you have online, the more leads you're going to get, the more business you're going to generate. And with this system, you're going to be able to convert them into sales. So it's kind of a full funnel approach, if you will. So again, if you go to getbizwings.com/podcast, we have that offer for podcast listeners right now.
That's awesome. And I will have all the links in the description for you guys. And Harry, thank you so much, man. I really enjoyed talking to you today. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Christian. Have a good one.
You too, my man.
All right.